Coming up today, the United States says North Korea's aggressive reaction to the planned deployment to South Korea of the THAAD missile defense system shows Seoul and Washington made the right choice. With a UN panel set to make its ruling on China's controversial claims to the South China Sea, Chinese President Xi Jinping reportedly puts the country's military on alert. First, Theresa May will be Britain's next Prime Minister after her only rival withdraws from the race. She'll move into 10 Downing Street on Wednesday. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Tuesday, the 12th of July. You're tuned into our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon. The National Assembly's Special Committee on Budget and Accounts has begun a comprehensive review of the 2015 budget. Lawmakers from the ruling and opposition parties will question related ministries on a wide range of issues, and Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-ahn and Finance Minister Lee Wil-ho are expected to be present for that session. The Legislation and Judiciary Committee and the Agricultural and Fisheries Committee will each hold separate meetings to review the budget as well. A heated debate is expected at the Agricultural and Fisheries Committee meeting amid growing calls to amend the so-called Kim Young-ran Act. Many blame that act, introduced to root out corruption among public officials, for hurting the farming and fishing industries, as retailers and other businesses in those sectors profited from spending by public officials. With Korea's Liberation Day just over 1 month away, the question of presidential pardons has come under the spotlight once more. As with other years, eyes are on whether the list will include any key business leaders. Kim Min-ji reports.
The government has begun preparations to draw up a list of candidates eligible for special pardons. The Justice Ministry will form a panel comprised of 4 ministry officials and 5 civilians and headed by the Justice Minister to carry out the procedures. Once a list is compiled, the candidates need approval from the cabinet and proclamation by the president. In Korea, presidents traditionally grant pardons on national holidays to highlight national unity. Similar to last year, pardons are expected to be given to those convicted of minor crimes, but with the economy showing no signs of imminent recovery, attention is on whether it will include any key business figures. There's speculation Kim Seung-yeon, chairman of Hana Group, currently serving a 5-year suspended sentence after being convicted of business irregularities, could be among those to be pardoned. SK Group Vice Chairman Choi Jae-won, sentenced to 3.5 years for embezzlement and using those funds for investment, is another potential candidate. Others include Koo Bon-san, Vice Chairman of LIG Next One, and SK Group Chairman Lee Jae-hyun, both put behind bars for business irregularities. Last year, only 1 corporate leader made the list, with no politicians or civil servants. But with President Park Geun-hye emphasizing unity with the launch of the 20th National Assembly and noting the gloomy economic situation, there's growing expectation the list may include more this time around.
지금 우리 경제가 대내외적으로 어려움이 많고 국민의 삶의 무게가 무겁습니다. 국민 모두가 힘을 모아서 위기를 극복할 수 있는 희망의 전기가 필요한 시기입니다.
But the practice has long been criticized as a tool to hand out favors to friends and business leaders. On top of that, some argue the pardons don't actually give the business sector that much of a lift anyway. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea's aggressive rhetoric on the deployment of the THAAD missile defense system to South Korea has prompted the US to say the decision was justified. Washington also called for the release of American detainees in the north after the regime threatened to handle them according to wartime law. Kwon So-ah reports.
The United States says North Korea's threat to take physical action in retaliation for the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD proves that the decision was right. Pyongyang claims the deployment is aimed at invading the north and warned it would strike Seoul and Washington once the deployment location is announced. Pentagon spokesman Commander Gary Ross said such threats only confirm the prudence of Seoul and Washington's decision, adding that the U.S. will continue to ensure its defense posture remains capable of deterring conflict and defending the U.S. and its armed forces. Washington also reacted to another threat made by North Korea late on Monday when it declared it would shut off all channels of contact with the U.S. and deal with any Americans detained in the country according to wartime law. The U.S. State Department once again called on North Korea to release the detainees from improper and unjust detention. Spokesman John Kirby said all of North Korea's recent threats, whether in the form of words or actions, are all the more reason for proper readiness posture in South Korea. He did not, however, make any direct comments on the North's decision to sever the so-called New York Channel, the only channel of communication between the U.S. and North Korea, which have no diplomatic ties. Experts say if the North goes through with its decision to close off contact with Washington, it will delay the release of American citizens detained in Pyongyang. 2 American citizens, college student Otto Warmbier and Korean-American pastor Kim Dong-chol, are currently detained in North Korea, serving sentences of 15 and 10 years. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Staying with North Korea, and a high level of activity has been detected at North Korea's Punggye-ri nuclear test site. US-based North Korea monitoring website 38 North says commercial satellite imagery from July 7th shows supplies and equipment stacked on the ground at the North Portal, where the 3rd and 4th nuclear tests were conducted. It said a small vehicle is present at the support building south of the portal and that several mine carts may also be present, suggesting the tunnel is actively being worked upon. The website says, however, that it's not possible to determine if the activity is for maintenance, excavation or preparation for a 5th nuclear test due to the image resolution. China's claims to the widely contested South China Sea are being scrutinised for the first time by an international legal body. The ruling is due to be delivered in the next few hours, and it isn't expected to make pretty reading for Beijing. Preempting the ruling, the Chinese government has reportedly raised the stakes to a new level. Oh Soo-young reports.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has reportedly ordered the People's Liberation Army to prepare for combat. This comes ahead of an international tribunal on Tuesday that's expected to issue an unfavourable ruling against China's claims over the South China Sea. US-based Boxun News said Tuesday that the instruction was given in case the United States takes provocative action in the waters once the ruling is made. The US and China have been expanding their military activities across the sea, stoking heavy tension between the two superpowers. China controls roughly 90% of the South China Sea, a critical waterway that handles some $5 trillion worth of trade every year. The Philippines filed a suit to the Hague Tribunal in 2013, accusing Beijing of seizing Scarborough Shoal, a fishing area that Manila claims as part of its exclusive economic zone. It says China's extensive maritime claims don't conform to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which was ratified by both countries. Since then, the country has stacked up 15 claims against China's vast territorial expansion. China opposes the arbitration process. It says it does not acknowledge the tribunal's jurisdiction and will not accept its ruling. The Hague's ruling on Tuesday is binding, but the court lacks powers of enforcement. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now staying with international news, and Britain is set to have a new Prime Minister on Wednesday. Theresa May will replace David Cameron, who is stepping down after Britain voted last month to leave the European Union. Kim Mo-kyun reports.
Theresa May, currently Britain's Interior Minister, has been confirmed as leader of the Conservative Party and the next Prime Minister after her sole rival for the post pulled out on Monday. Mrs. May and Junior Energy Minister Andrea Leadsom had been the 2 remaining candidates competing for the UK's top political position. May will become Britain's 2nd female Prime Minister after Margaret Thatcher, who led the UK throughout the 1980s. After receiving official confirmation she had won the leadership contest, May said she was honored and humbled. She vowed to bring the strong leadership needed to negotiate the best terms for Britain's exit from the EU, forge a new role for the country in the world, and unite the nation.
A vision of a country that works not for the privileged few, but that works for every one of us, because we're going to give people more control over their lives. And that's how, together, we will build a better Britain.
As she gave her speech, May praised outgoing Prime Minister David Cameron for his leadership and contribution to Britain. Cameron, who has been in the post for the past 6 years, welcomed the news and pledged to fully support May.
I'm also delighted that Theresa May will be the next Prime Minister. She is strong, she is competent, she's more than able to provide the leadership that our country is going to need in the years ahead, and she will have my full support.
Cameron said that given the new changes, there's no need for a prolonged period of transition. He added that he will chair his last cabinet meeting on Tuesday and offer his resignation on Wednesday. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics posted its biggest ever quarterly sales in the global NAND flash market in the first 3 months of this year. According to US-based market research firm IHS, Samsung recorded first quarter sales of $2.6 billion, more than 3% higher than the previous quarter. This further solidifies Samsung's position as the market's biggest player, with its market share topping 42%. Samsung has, in fact, been the market leader for 14 straight years since 2002. NAND flash is a type of non-volatile storage technology that is widely used in smartphones and laptops. Racial tension is bubbling and the number of violent incidents is rising in the United States following the string of high-profile shootings there. Major US cities have been seeing mass protests as President Barack Obama is set to travel to Dallas to pay his respects to the 5 police officers shot dead in that city last week. Hwang Ho-jun has more.
The tension has never been higher. To some, protesters from the Black Lives Matter movement, the cause is about policing, not the police.
Just because we're Black Lives Matter does not mean we're anti-police, and just because we're against anti-police brutality.
But increasing violent incidents between police and civilians have been reported across the country. In a Michigan courthouse, 2 court bailiffs were killed and 1 deputy was injured on Monday after an inmate grabbed an officer's gun outside a holding cell.
They secured the door, and then the inmate started fighting with the deputy and bailiff, and that's when the gun was able to be taken away. He was trying to escape, and that's when he fatally wounded the 2 bailiffs.
According to the county sheriff, other law enforcement officers opened fire and killed the man after the inmate made it to the hallway and shot a civilian in the arm. The inmate's identity has not been released. In Detroit, 4 men have been detained over Facebook posts in which they urged people to kill white officers in the wake of the Dallas ambush. One of them wrote, quote, "All lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Kill all white cops," and even praised Micah Johnson, the Dallas shooter. On Saturday, Houston police shot and killed a man for not complying to an order to lower his weapon, which he was pointing at the police. However, according to the Boston Globe, some people say surveillance video from a nearby gas station shows the man had his hands up before being shot, prompting calls for a deeper investigation. President Obama, who cut short his trip to Europe, will visit Dallas on Tuesday. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, Korea has begun providing travel advice for citizens heading to the Rio Olympics, now less than 1 month away. The city of Busan and the Korean Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have urged Korean travelers to get vaccinated against infectious diseases prevalent in Brazil, including hepatitis A, typhoid fever and yellow fever. Officials say travelers should get vaccinated at least 2 weeks before their arrival, but preferably 4 to 6 weeks before. The Korea Customs Service has reminded Korean tourists and supporters that they can stay in Brazil for up to 90 days without an entry visa. This is possible because of the visa waiver agreement the 2 countries signed back in 2002. It's monsoon season here in Korea, which means we're in for a round of steamy mornings and rainy afternoons. Heavy rain will hit southern parts of the nation later in the day, but Seoul is forecast to stay dry. Our Ian Shin has the details.
Korea has seen some record-breaking temperatures over the past few days, but with the rainy season kicking back in on Tuesday, the country is expected to cool down a bit. Seoul and the surrounding Gyeonggi-do province started out the day covered in a layer of clouds and mist. The clouds will persist throughout the day, bringing a chance of showers in the late afternoon. The southern provinces, including Chungcheongdo and Jeju Island, can expect about 80 millimeters of rain today. And along with the rain, blustery winds are expected to sweep through the southern and western coastal areas, gaining strength going into the evening hours. The rainy season, which may be a burden to some, also has its benefits, as the extra precipitation is expected to bring ultra-fine dust levels down below average nationwide throughout the day. Yun-shin, Arirang News.
Well, those are the stories we've been following on this Tuesday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget you can check out the website arirang.com/news. We also have our smartphone application. You can check that out by going to your app store and searching for Arirang TV. Have a great day. Goodbye.